Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be My Guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lir Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. And this is turning out to be a family occasion because not so long ago, Pat was fortunate to interview Joe Flynn, who is the brother of Lieutenant Colonel Michael Flynn in the US. Actually, you can see his photograph there, Michael Flynn. And we interviewed Joe. And today now we're interviewing his sister, Mary. So this is going to be one confusing show with Mary and Mary. So hello, Mary.
Hello. I have to correct you. That's Lieutenant General Michael T. Flynn.
I knew I had it said when I was actually, and I was saying, oh God, did I say, yeah, Lieutenant General Michael T. Flynn. So what's it like being, I mean, particularly now, Mary, seeing as he got, he was pardoned by the president. Bittersweet, I would imagine, given that he didn't, you would say he didn't do anything to deserve needing a pardon, but grateful all the same.
Of course, it is bittersweet. Like Sidney Powell, his attorney, did make a statement saying it is because from the beginning we knew he was innocent, but it was proven through the DOJ that they found, a dismissal came. So yes, it is. But waiting for a corrupt judge, which is proven. We couldn't do that anymore. And so God bless President Trump. But I do want to make sure that I let you know that the pardon is called, and it's one of a kind. It's a one of a kind pardon. It's never been done, called the pardon of innocence. So it's a beautiful pardon. It's going to change probably the way pardons are done. He's probably, that's President Trump, though. He's a one of a kind guy,
He's pretty unusual, to say the least. He's very politically incorrect, and he doesn't do things as a politician would do them. And I probably imagine that that's what irks a lot of people. They don't quite know how to actually take him.
Well, sadly, that's true because he's a businessman, and that's one of the reasons that I believe that he was put in place, because people were tired of the political politician, person that's been in our government for so long. And so one of the things that we should probably explain is that yes, people are not used to him because they've been so brainwashed to see these politicians become career politicians.
Yeah.
So, that's why they talk about term limits and all that, but it never happened. I mean, these politicians continued to be in office for a career. And so that's Biden, 47 years, some of them 60 years, Pelosi, even in Rhode Island, which is a Democratic state, and it's been a hold for a very long time, and corrupt, the littlest state of the union, the most corrupt state of the union, the littlest state, that's what we call it. These people have been in forever, and that's wrong. That's going to breed corruption.
But as somebody living in Ireland, I mean, I won't make a judgment either way about political sides or anything. But what I can't understand is the way the system of elections is conducted. Now, I understand that America is all they govern their own states. And each state has its own government and decides how to run its own state, and basically they have their own government. But when it comes to elections, don't you think it's time, Mary, that there was a centralized election system, that everybody vote one way adopt one system, because it seems like every state has a different way of doing it. Some use mail-in ballots, some use absentee ballots, some turn up at the polls. Here in Ireland, the only people who can vote absentee ballots or overseas ballots are people who are, say, people working in the Irish embassy in America or Australia or New Zealand or wherever. They vote within the embassies for the government, or people working in the armed forces abroad can vote. But other than that, unless you're actually living in the country at the time of the election and you turn up and you vote, and it's all paper ballots, and there's accountability with paper ballots. There's an obvious transparency that I don't seem to, as somebody from Ireland, I don't seem to see that when you're using machines all the time, because a machine is only as good as the people who are operating it.
So it's a big question and a big answer. So because of this corruption, so each state has its own government, has its own constitution, right?
Yeah.
Its own House, its own Senate, and it has to do with population, districting. Okay.
Yeah.
Simple. Okay. And each district or population area of a state has a certain amount of electoral people that represent the state after an election, after a popular vote, right?
Mm.
Like Rhode Island has 2 because we're so small, right? And by the way, we went Trump, so they did get an electoral.
Yeah.
But what you're saying about these machines and the technology that's been used, so this is a precedent. It's going to set precedent this election, and that's what Trump is doing. He's exposing all this corruption. Absolutely agree with you that mail voting should be a federal, absolutely. I mean, not mail voting, the in-house, go to your polls and go show your ID and you go vote. And that's always growing up, that's always the way it was for us, until all of a sudden the past couple of big elections, they brought in these machines, and now we're learning about software and companies that were certain governors, which Sidney Powell is exposing in Georgia. I'm sorry, in Michigan, the lawsuit, and Georgia, but Michigan, she's really showing that. I believe it's Michigan. It's
Michigan and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as well.
That's right. So they decided to be paid off. And both Democrat, Republican are to blame. I see it across the board.
Yeah.
That's where the way I feel about it. And many do. We know Republicans did the same thing. Whatever they needed to do to change their votes or get on board with whatever their agenda is, which is a corrupt agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, we need to bring it. Federal laws need to be across the board now, and that's the way it should be. And it should be back to the way it was back in the day when we went to the polls and we voted. We showed our ID and we voted. That's it. That's the only way to trust the system.
That's the only way to do it when you're dealing with something as high of as high importance as the presidential election. Because
Absolutely.
Either way now, if Donald Trump is fortunate enough to prove that there was corruption, there's always going to be people who will say, oh, he didn't. And you want a system where it's so transparent that it's completely without doubt. And I just feel that looking at it from the outside in, it's quite maddening that the land of the free and the home of the brave can't seem to get their act together when it comes to an election, and can't seem to have one general election that's run the same as everybody else. If it's called the United States of America, it should be united under one election system, in my view. And that's the way we do it here. We're not, we have our faults in this country and in the UK, but for the most part, you have to turn up at your polling station and mark your X, or assign your 1, 2, 3 in order of preference the whole way down. You were a Democrat. Your family were Democrats for forever, really, weren't you?
Yes, absolutely. My mother and father were from the Democratic Party. That was the working man class, hardworking. They were conservative. They were, just, for the middle class, for freedom. My mother ran in for office.
Yeah.
Many different offices, House, Senate. She ran on one platform, and that was right to life, pro-life.
Yeah.
She ran on pro-life, even though she was, held many degrees in economics. She was worldly. She was, she had a law degree, not at that time, but she was very intelligent.
Later on,
She worked as a business. She worked secretarial school. She taught English. She did all kinds of things. And she never, I used to say to her, Ma, because she would lose, and she would lose by small margins all the time. But I used to say to her, Ma, why don't you just
give up?
Tell people like what you have so many other attributes and characteristics and background. Why don't you could win, And she said, no, I'm running pro-life. That's it. I'm against abortion, and we're going to run pro-life, and that's it. And so, that's what she did. And so hardcore Democrats, she helped many Democrats get into office. But I will say this, when my mother started to really amp up her running, and when the abortion issue became, now this is back, when I was a kid, 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s, when my mother used to talk about the feminist movement being the downfall of our country, of the Democratic Party. Now, what she meant by that was not against women. But what they were starting, she was really ahead of her own.
Radical feminism.
She was way ahead of her own time. She really was. She had a lot of insight and a lot of things going on, and she proved that, because things happened just as she said back then.
Yeah.
But my point is that these people that she helped get into office, these Democrats, she was big in the Democratic Party here too. She helped many get in. There's only one person that was a historic man and that got in, and he stayed in, and he was a good guy, and he was pro-life. But many of them used to make fun of my mother. She was made. They would make fun of her. They talked behind her back. They called her names. They did a lot of bad things to my mother. They talked a lot about my mother. My mother stood her ground. She always remembered. She forgave, but she always remembered who those people were. And it was funny, because when my two brothers were over in Afghanistan,
she never forgot.
She never forgot. She forgave. She never forgot. And she was quite a faithful person. But what happened was, years later, my two brothers are in Afghanistan together, serving in Afghanistan together. And Jack Reed, who's a big senator who's still here in Rhode Island, and Jack Reed in White House, Senator Whitehouse, who's another knucklehead, excuse me.
My mother used to do that.
They took a picture. They were over in Afghanistan, took pictures with my two brothers, Rhode Island brothers, right? Who weren't West Point guys. They were URI guys. Little Rhodey graduated from Little Rhode Island, became generals, right? And they took these great pictures with them, hand in hand. I'll never forget when Michael got into this trouble and things started to go sour with all this. My mother took those pictures, and she took those pictures and tore them up. And that's when Obama turned her. She started to, Clinton, at the end of Clinton, Obama turned my mother into a voting Republican, voting against. She saw the Democratic Party start to really, and I swear she knew where the corruption was starting. So
yeah, well, I would have always seen myself as aligned, I suppose we all do in this country, because of John F. Kennedy, and I suppose because of John F. Kennedy's relationship to Ireland, his family connection to Ireland. I think Ireland, for the most part, would be Democrat aligned. And I would have always, I suppose, seen John F. Kennedy and then Obama. I would have, had I been living in the US and had a vote, I would have voted. I stayed up all night to watch Obama being elected because it was history being made, and I cried buckets as he was taking his inaugural speech, and I just thought it was the most fabulous moment in history, and I was very close here in Ireland when Bill Clinton came to Ireland, and I thought he was the most charismatic man that you could possibly come across.
Sure.
Having said that, I'm looking at the presidential elections now, and I'm thinking, they've got to sort out the way people are voting, because my God, it's a minefield. I was listening there now to I watch a lot of the interviews and a lot of media on it, and Pennsylvania, the Republicans can actually turn that. There's something in the Constitution that they can take back their control, and they can actually vote and decide who the president is, and it seems to be not down necessarily to the people who vote. It can be down to the decision at Congress. Am I wrong in that?
Yes. Yes. Well, that can happen overall in our country, not just Pennsylvania. So it will go to the Supreme Court. These cases, the Supreme Court will decide, and then some say that, and this is what will happen. It gets thrown back down to the House, okay, for the vote of the president, and then each state gets to use one electoral person at their, I believe at the party. So in other words, he has a clear win if that happens. He has a clear win if that goes to the House.
But Mary, should never have got to this situation. I mean, a land that's really not very old, but is much more powerful than its age would belie. I mean, Ireland is centuries old, a country, and yet it's not nearly as powerful, say, as the United States. It's not a speck on the ocean of the power of the United States. And you wonder how, with the greatest of respect, your election system seems to be an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, well, Mary, it's our country is young, and when I have a background in environmental science, and my bachelor, and I have an MBA, and so I my big job is finance. So, but I threw in a environmental science because years ago when this country started, my point is when this country started and all the people were coming over from Europe and from all over to land this country, to begin this new world, right? They thought they were in a paradise. They thought they were in a paradise. There were so many resources. This environment, this country was so beautiful, like your country. That basically they thought they were in paradise, and they slashed every tree they could, just to build their homes, build this country. They're building this country. The New World, New England, all this kind of stuff. But when I was studying the environment, I was studying about how they felt about this new world and all this beautiful resource and all the water and all this. And so they didn't take very good care of the country, the resources, because that's what happens. Over the years, the Industrial Revolution, all this kind of stuff, so pollution and all this kind of stuff. But one of the things that Americans did, and we do have, and our four founding fathers wrote a constitution that was incredible, okay? And it clearly had every point to watching out for corruption. It covers every sort of corruption that can happen. And so, a country like ours, grew so fast. People had, could be as wealthy as they wanted, which they did. We still had that character of European people, okay? The English and all that, So I guess what my point is that we grew so fast. We had so much resource. We have an incredible constitution. Our forefathers
they seem to have thought of every eventuality.
Yes, they thought of everything, and they have, and that's what's happening right now. That's why our Constitution is so important, because what is playing out right now is exactly what is supposed to happen. Because corruption, capitalism, we have to have checks and balances. We have to do them. In my accounting world, that's what we do. We have checks and balances, and a lot of these people have not been held accountable.
Is it possible that Trump imagined this whole scenario happening when he pushed Coney Barrett in? Because when you look at her appointment, she is a constitutionalist. She's somebody who believes utterly in the details and the fine details and the upholding of the Constitution at all costs. And I mean, she is pro-life, and she absolutely is pro-life. Having said that, she is a constitutionalist at heart. So if something goes against her core beliefs, I have no doubt that she will go against her core beliefs to uphold what the Constitution says in situations like that. But do you think it was almost fortuitous that he saw that he was going to need somebody like constitutionalists on the Supreme Court?
Yes, I do. I believe that Donald Trump, the worldly man that he is in his past, he's a developer. He's a developer. He's a guy who built a business among people that are pretty hardcore people, just like my brother, who's a fisherman. Developers, construction guys, they're tough guys. I mean, he's no slouch, Trump. He's seen a lot. He also had the element, he knew the Hollywood element. He knew, he's a man of wealth that built all this wealth, that he saw corruption. That's one of the reasons that he wanted to go in and be president of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I believe. I believe that he said, this country's going. If we don't try to get the corruption out of here and try to, if he doesn't go in and try to save what he knows. I truly believe the man knew who and what, Republicans, Democrats, all kinds of people. He knows where the corruption is. He happened to meet my brother, who also knows the corruption. So that was a God-given, connection that I believe was very divine.
And it's strange that your brother would have been from a Democrat ethos, and having grown up in a Democrat family, meeting somebody who was, well, arguably could have been also considered a Democrat. Donald Trump.
He was. I mean, he supported many Democrats through his lifetime. I mean, he was a Democrat at one time. You know. And so the point about the knowing Barrett, yes. So all the systems have been infiltrated by the left. Absolutely. There's no system in our country and globally, because it's all about globalism. This is not about Democrat, Republican. This is about globalism versus capitalism, freedom, So every judge, of course, the judicial system has been completely infiltrated by judges. Clinton appointed judges They have nothing to do with the Constitution. They don't even believe in the U.S. Constitution. You
Yeah.
can see it in their decisions. You'll see it in Pennsylvania. You'll see these decisions being made. And furthermore, when Sullivan, who was the judge on my brother's case, when we first walked into that courtroom, when he first just, was despicable to my brother about him being a traitor and, letting his country down, and look at that flag. This guy, when you looked behind this guy, he had the freedom scale. He had the scales like that. You could tell this guy was not a constitutional lawyer. Every single one of these judges should be making decisions through that Constitution. That's what they're supposed to do.
Mary, for people who don't know about General Michael T. Flynn's background, the whole scenario behind him being accused of being a traitor and behind him admitting to perjury and all that. Could you explain, please,
Sure.
for us?
Sure.
Because I personally have, I'm there wondering, I'm saying to myself, why would he admit to something,
Sure. And I'll make it very simple to you. Because it's a very complicated case, and a lot of my friends and people in this country, if you don't follow this case, which is historic, it's a historic case, you will be lost.
Yeah.
Basically, Michael became working on the campaign for Trump. He accepted Donald Trump's, offer to come and work for him out of all the candidates. Because when my brother was fired by Obama, because he said he testified in Congress against the Obama administration, knowing ISIS was going to grow and that he had called it a JV league. So Michael testified against Obama's administration and on the handling of ISIS, and that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
He fired Obama. Obama fired Michael. That's it. Michael writes a book, gets out, writes a book. Mind you, Michael now 33 years military intel, knows a lot, has seen a lot. Benghazi. He goes back to Bush 1. This man, could not be bought.
As they say in Ireland, he knows where the bodies are buried.
Bodies. Well, and he does. I'll say it. So Michael could not be bought by the left. He could not. They could not change him. Many tried. Bush, Clapper, Brennan, all these high, people that worked for these administrations over the year, Clinton administration, even Bush. Bush too he's a bugger too. Republican, Democrat, we got it. Okay. But anyways, back to Michael. So Michael starts working for Trump. His whole mission was that Hillary Clinton not get in as president, because if she had gotten in, we would have been in worse shape now than we are right now. We would have been in worse shape. It would have already started. It would have been, them coming to your house and taking your guns and taking your car and your livelihood and your kids. Okay. Because that's what she's a communist. She's a straight up communist. That's it. So Michael's mission was that. So Michael became the national security advisor. It wasn't something that he wanted to do. Donald Trump won. He was very happy with that. Once he started to get into that position, that's when the attacks started. Okay. That's when the FBI, the DOJ, the left started to attack my brother. They showed a picture of him in sitting next to Putin, which he didn't even know. He was there on duty for the government of this country. He was there on duty, on assignment to help this country. Okay. There's a lot to this. Okay. Bottom line is, they started to, Biden is the one that, and I blame him, he is the one that went after my brother amongst Obama and this meeting that took place, and said, we got to get Mike Flynn out. He's gonna find out what we're doing. He's gonna find out the corruption. He's going to find out. He knows. So that's one of the reasons that they came after him. And when the FBI went into his office and did this interview, which he thought he was helping his ally, FBI, this transition Now, let me show you around. He's thinking they're allies when in reality, it was a complete setup. It was a complete setup to get him. They were already spying on him, listening to his phone calls as a national security advisor, which is against the law. He did everything the right way. He was a diplomat. He was trying to ease tensions before the president got in. Okay, period. That was his job. So what happened was they got Michael, and they started to threaten our family, his son, and take Michael Jr. and he had just had a young baby with his wife, and so Michael, being Michael, was in a position where he had to make a decision. He was being represented by some very corrupt lawyers, which he didn't know at the time, but Sidney Powell brought out. I mean, these things happened through this whole case. So basically, Michael pleaded guilty because he had no choice. He had no choice. They were going to take Michael, young Michael, and do a Manafort on him. They were going to take him and put him in prison for life. They were going to take my brother and put him in prison. Anybody else in this family that was in.
What were they saying, that he colluded with Putin?
Well, they took all their gadgets and all. They didn't specifically say he committed any crime. They didn't commit any crime. They just were going to do it. They were just going to do it. They were going to do it like the Nazis did it, like the communists did it. That's how this got so bad with Michael. These guys were going to do it no matter what they did.
So then Sidney Powell approached him and told him to retract.
Right. So this case with Covington started. His old lawyers started to get really bad, and that time when we went before the judge, when he was trying to say, "Are you sure you want to plead guilty? Are you sure you don't want to change your plea?" He couldn't do that because he had already been told by the DOJ that if he did that, they were going to arrest him, go get his son, and throw him in jail right there. He couldn't say, I want new counsel. There was a mug on him. There was
gagging order.
Yes, there was no way that he could change that plea. So at that point, we're horrified. As a family, we were horrified. We were all there. We came in and said to him, "There's got to be something. You've got to do something. There's something wrong with your lawyers. There's something wrong with the judge. There's something wrong." And so that's when Sidney had been following. She had been friends with my brother Joe and my sister Barbara. She had been following the case because it is an incredible case. And for an attorney who, like her, who is a true, by the book, has seen the corruption as a prosecutor. That's what happens in this country. The attorney generals, they'll use drug informants. They'll use criminals to get that person, whatever that target is. It's one of the problems in our country, that this power of these prosecutors, these DOJ, these attorney generals and their crowd, their lawyers, they have a lot of power to hurt people. If you're not, with their political party or with their agendas, they'll target you. That's what Sidney is trying to say. That's with Enron. That's what happened with Enron and Wiseman, the guy who was who was on the special counsel, doing what he was doing to Michael. This guy is a bad guy. This guy is he's a very bad
So
guy.
how did Sidney get it to turn around?
She had come in, and we were thrilled that Michael had chosen her, and she read that case and she pulled that plea deal. She did it. She pulled that plea deal, and she fired off, motions after motions, and it just became obvious. Then all of a sudden, once Michael pulled the plea deal, all the stuff started coming out with the DOJ. Donald Trump had some other people in there. They were starting to redact stuff. The story before Sidney had already started to turn for Michael's favor. It started to turn because people, things were starting to come out.
Now the situation,
the FBI through
the situation between Sidney and Donald Trump now at the moment. She's working separately from, but they're still working together. That's my understanding of it, that because she is a military lawyer, she is probably one of the only people, and apparently from what my reading of things and from my research, and that she's the only person who can try for treason because she is a military lawyer. Is in your view, is that why she has more or less distanced herself from the Trump lawyers, if you like, from Giuliani and Ellis, isn't it Ellis?
Yes.
Because she's working on a different side of the case completely from the Trump campaign or from the Trump lawyers.
Yeah. So Sydney. So with all this corruption that broke, so Giuliano, Trump has his team. That's his personal lawyer, by the way.
Yeah.
That team is his actual personal lawyers, because he needs to be represented.
Yeah.
This is against him. This is the corruption against him. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so that's one thing. So Sydney is working for the people. She's representing we the people. And another great man is Lynn Wood. He's another unreal person.
Yeah.
He helped that little boy from the Catholic school.
That's right. Who was accused of taunting the Native American.
Exactly, and the media just destroyed that poor little kid.
His family have won a couple of $100 million.
Absolutely,
lawyers
absolutely.
from different media companies.
Yeah, he's also Rittenhouse. He's representing Kyle. I believe he's representing Kyle Rittenhouse, which is the kid that was attacked in I don't know if it was Pennsylvania. He ended up defending himself and shot 3 people. I forget that.
That's right. He went
Wisconsin,
to defend people. But I have to be honest with you. I would see myself as being right in the center. I am vehemently against guns. I don't see the logic. I don't see Mary. I just cannot understand America's obsession with the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms, because as somebody here in Ireland who we don't carry guns, we're not allowed to carry guns unless, I suppose, you were a hunter, which I'm anti-blood sport anyway, but you're and you have to have it legally, but you're not allowed to carry a gun around with you. And I feel that there's too much danger of an accident happening, killing the wrong person, thinking someone's breaking in. It could be you could be fast asleep. You could wake up thinking someone was breaking in because you're half asleep, and you could kill somebody accidentally, and it's too late. I just think guns in the hands of the wrong person can be. Our Gardaí don't even have them. Our special branch detectives do, but they have to sign them out, use them, and sign them back in at nighttime when they're finished their duty, and they cannot bring them home with them. There's such strict rules in this country about guns that I don't understand. I just don't understand the need for a gun or the desire to hold on to the Second Amendment. Having said that, there's, I'm on both sides in different areas, but I'm definitely not for guns.
Yeah. Well, that's a part of our country. Our country started this, this country started with, guns, and guns are a protection, and that's the way Americans feel. I mean, that's just the way we are. And, of course, nobody wants violence. No. Nobody wants violence and all that. I mean, but even the Catholic Church, which is in turmoil right now, which I could talk, that'd be another show for us, Mary. I work for the church. I work for the diocese.
I love I love your little crucifix behind.
That's my Blessed Mother too.
Yeah.
I work for the diocese, and so. But anyway, so the guns is a part of Americans' thread. That's what we are. I mean, we hunted our own food. We did our thing. We don't want violence, but but it is a right that I truly believe that everybody has a right to have. In the wrong hands,
in the
of
wrong
course
hands.
that's not right.
And as well as that, when that when that amendment was being put into the Constitution, there were muskets, and it was probably one round, just one bullet, or one round of ammunition, and that was it.
Right.
Now you can hold machine guns, and you can have armed light rifles, and you're saying, my God Almighty, you could have a whole arsenal inside in your house and legally be entitled to.
Yeah. Well, the people that, the people that there, I mean, America has, the NRA, the National Rifle Association, and there, the majority of people that are holding guns and being lawful about things are good people. Believe me, it's a small percentage that, are going to go, which we've had shootings in, we've had shootings in schools, in malls, and in Nevada, things like that. We call them false flags. That's what we call them.
Yeah.
But so that the majority of those things, that's a very small percentage. So everybody has the right to bear arms under a lawful, presumption, and in a way that is correct. I mean, it's a lawful right to do that. So I don't have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, my father was a veteran. My father never had guns or anything like that, or that around. He had his old army stuff around. So we never had that issue. I did have friends that, whose parents did hold guns. My husband had, a rifle when I first met him, and that kind of thing. I one of the problems in this country.
You'd never have an argument with your husband, Mary. Yeah, I mean, I knew that he had a rifle in the house.
Oh, I know. I mean, I was kind of shocked with it, because I didn't have that growing up. We didn't have that. But one of the things I wanted to mention was this country, mental illness is what you're talking about, literally.
Well, mental illness and evil, because there are some people who are just mad, insane, and can't do anything really about. God love them, but there are some people who are just bad.
Yes, and I truly believe that. I mean, we like Michael talks about, and I talk about a lot, is a spiritual warfare going on. And it is evil and good and evil going on here, because a lot of people are under mind control and they're brainwashed, and that's one of the problems that the left has. That's part of their plan. That's a Marxist plan. That's the plan of the communists.
When you say the left, I would imagine what you mean is far left. And,
yes,
and to me, the far extremes of everything are what's the danger.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they are dangerous.
I have to be honest. I would consider myself center left. During the elections, the last election, I was very much, I have to say, Bernie Sanders supporter, because I believed fully that every human being should have the right to an education. And as somebody who struggled to educate themselves to PhD level financially, I feel that there's an awful lot of people slipping between the cracks, intelligent people who want to make a life for themselves because they don't have the finances to afford to go to college. And the same with jobs and security. Everyone should be entitled to health service, a good, decent health service. And I would have been absolutely never Hillary, but I would have been always Bernie Sanders, and that's the way I would have felt, because I would have believed that Christ was the biggest socialist that you could come across, because he believed in, I mean, the loaves and fishes was an example of that, where he took 5 loaves and the fishes, and he divided them equally between everybody in the crowd, and that to me was an example of the socialism, I suppose, that I espouse to liking, is equality, and everyone looking after each other. Having said that, there's a far left agenda, and then there's a far right agenda that ruin it for the people who are like us, Mary, and I'm sure you'd be the same as me, that you would agree that everybody deserves a decent life and a decent standard of living. But yet there are the far right and the far left in everything that just take everything to the extreme.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Well, I am not a Bernie Sanders fan.
I was.
Yeah,
I was,
I'm
because
not.
I thought he wasn't a politician. I saw him as not being a politician.
Well, which many people did. Many people did. I am a person that believes that, and in this country, nobody is not without an opportunity to get education or health insurance.
Yeah.
Or a better life. That does not happen in America. Everybody has the same opportunity. No matter what anybody says, we all have the same opportunity. Yeah. I struggled. I paid my loans off. I worked as a single mother. I lost my first husband. My 2 little children had no father. The first father died at 40. He was a Marine.
Oh my God.
And so I don't believe in welfare. I mean, a little temporary help for people is fine. But this country has grown into a welfare state. Everybody is doing nothing for themselves. I don't believe that works in a country. It's not working in this country. What I believe is that if you're down, people help. Temporary, you get up on your butt and you get going on yourself. You work for yourself. I had many businesses. I worked for nonprofits. I had 3 businesses. And so I know how wonderful that feels for a woman. And I don't consider myself a feminist. I consider myself a strong standing woman who worked hard to get what I needed to get for my children to survive. Okay. So in this country, the socialist value, Bernie Sanders has made socialism, and many of them have made socialism sound like it's a great thing.
Yeah.
You know? And God does, we're all treated equal. We all, in God's eyes, everybody is God's image. We're made in God's image. And that's what we are. But we have to be God's children. Okay? We have to be God's children. We have to love our neighbor and abide by his commandments. And that's the way I feel. And so if you abide by his commandments, then you can live in a country like ours or any other country, because those values and those commandments are perfect. They're written perfectly. Every single one of those commandments is written absolutely for the freedom and equality of every person, human being. So that is where I stand. Yeah. And I stand strong on that.
Yeah.
And of course, but in this country, what has happened a lot, and people get mad, because this is what Bernie Sanders' crowd has said. They always talk about the rich and giving the rich, they get all the tax breaks and they get all the, the benefits of being, rich, and they, okay, let me explain something. And they did this to Donald Trump too. Because I've worked for CPAs. I'm a finance person. I'm a finance director. I understand finance clearly. What happens in our country is when a wealthy person is rich, they get as a business person, you get a lot of tax write-offs. Your money is your money. You worked hard for your money. You cannot be taxed on your labor. It's your money, okay? So a rich person makes $1 million. They get a lot of write-offs to lower that tax, how much tax they're going to pay, which is a great thing, because that's your money. Okay, you have a family, you have things you want to do with your family. You worked hard for your money, so that's why they say, "Oh, Donald Trump only paid $75." That's a lot of baloney. He paid a huge amount of taxes throughout his life.
He paid in advance.
He paid advance, which is people don't do. They don't pay in advance. That's That's amazing that he did that. He gave the money to the government so the government could use the money ahead of time instead of waiting and paying it at the end of the bottom line as you owe $10,000, right? So you pay the 10,000 and then the government taxes you on that. They penalize you for being late for paying your taxes. So there's a lot of laws to this, but the bottom line with people who make a lot of money, the government wants those people to help the poor. We have an obligation to help the poor. That's what Jesus wanted us to do. That's what he wanted us to do. We had an opportunity to live in this land of freedom, to make as much money as we possibly could. Being a good person, though. A lot of people that are in business for themselves, they're always trying to, slide this and I'll get away with this. And, there's not a lot of good ethical, moral, well, there are, but there are a lot of business people that we're seeing in the corporations that are treating people terrible in their companies. They're doing a lot of bad things to people. They're not giving back to their people. You see, it's very rare that you see a corporation who's, giving bonuses to their people, giving them time for their children to go take their children when they're sick. And those are the best corporations that take care of the people. And that's what this country needs to do. Take care of its people that way and allow the rich to give back. Give them the incentive.
It's like a trick.
Tell them it's so, if you give to this, neighborhood, which Trump has been doing for the black, he's going into the neighborhoods and he's helping them find their jobs and get their education the right way. That's what he's been doing.
Why do you think people have so misjudged him and his actions? Why do you think that the media, or that he has been portrayed as somebody, one, who's racist, two, who was responsible for the cages at the borders, and three, somebody who has been bad for, when it's been looking, if you were to look at the rallies, which I have been looking at all the rallies, and I've been looking at the election, I've been following the election very closely on every form of media that I can find, not just the mainstream media, but any media I can actually find on it. But when you look at the rallies and that new radio station that's come out, RB, right side, RSB, right side broadcasting, and all that, and you look at the amount of people that's in the crowds, and you have, say, Hispanics for Trump, blacks for Trump, Puerto Ricans for Trump, and Armenians for Trump, and you're saying to yourself, why, when there's so many, minority groups coming out in obvious support for him, is he so vilified by so many?
Okay, so let's just go back with Trump. So he's vilified because when he came down that escalator with his wife, he decided he was going to run for president, and that shook it shook the mainstream media up. It shook every politician that had some kind of compromising position that was being taking money, lobbyists or any kind of corruption that was going on. He shook them up because he's not a politician, he's a businessman, and he was going to find and help find the corruption, help the American people, okay? He's not a racist, nowhere near a racist. There is no racism in that body. He has a proven record on that. That's historical. Donald Trump shook them, and that's why they developed a plan to turn people into a hating pattern, to hate. And that's what the mainstream media did. They were a part of their plan. Once they knew Donald Trump was going to run for president, and they started to see people perking up for him, I knew right away that's who I wanted to vote for. I knew I was going to vote. I was not going to vote Democrat. I was going to vote Republican. But I was looking at all the people, and they were all the same politicians, and there was a few. But Donald Trump stood out to me because I know business. He's a businessman. He has no agenda. He has absolutely no agenda. He has no reason to run for president. He's a millionaire. He can go walk off or sail off into the sunshine with his money and be none of this. Okay, live free, whatever he wanted to live. He was the one. He was the one, and the mainstream media started to attack him, and they started to build this hate plan, marketing plan, and that's what they did. And there are people that are they're evil people. There are mind-controlled people, and there are people that cannot stand. They made him look like he was this womanizing, dirty man, which is a lot of baloney.
I mean, my biggest problem. Do you know the one thing that I like about him is the fact that he has not gone into any other country and created a war. He's taken.
Oh, he's peaceful. He's very peaceful.
They have taken. He's the only president in my lifetime that has not sent troops into another country to destroy.
That's right.
And he's also the only president that has actually taken the steps to go into another country and speak to a dictator, because wars start when people don't sit down and talk to each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Common ground. And him sitting down and talking and shaking hands with Kim Jong-un, to me was one step, because he and also the Abraham Accord, where he got together Arab countries with Israel to bring about peace.
Absolutely.
Peace trumps and dialogue trumps hate, in my view, all the time. And as somebody who has spent over a decade, I suppose, researching the impact of World War II on children, which is what my doctorate was on.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
I am just astounded that people would actually still refer to him as another Hitler, because to me that is just an insult to the victims of Nazism.
Oh, it is.
Who suffered and died under the most atrocious conditions. And you have a man who hasn't sent a soldier in to that. From my perspective, those attributes are something that I admire in him.
Yeah, that's
his
wonderful.
Tweets, I wonder how much his tweets have actually added to the vitriolic abuse that he has suffered. Had he engaged with the media a bit more than he does, is it a case of they feel slighted because he's gone past the middleman and he's gone straight from his own voice to the people via Twitter instead of the middleman? And I wonder how much of it is them feeling slighted because they've been excluded. I saw his conference the other day. He came out for 5 minutes. He spoke and he said, "Thank you very much." And he walked back in again. And I'm saying to myself, what? He was like, he just came out, made a statement and said, "Thank you very much," and just walked out. And I thought, what is he? I mean, there's parts of him, he's an enigma. I don't quite understand what he's doing at times. I don't like some of the things he does, but I admire the fact that he has tried to negotiate peace and he has stayed out of other people's countries. And for that, I think he should be hugely admired, because this country, Ireland, wouldn't have the peace it has now, but for the fact that you had people like Mo Mowlam and John Major and Tony Blair and Martin McGuinness and Jerry Adams, who all were prepared to sit down and talk to each other and open dialogue in order to find a commonality, a common ground. And he has done that, as I say, with Kim Jong-un. And he did it when he got Kim Jong and the president of South Korea together. And he did it again, as I say, with the Abraham Accord. He became the broker there.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'd like to see him as, and that's how I'd like to see him is for what he did in those situations.
Yeah. Well, he came right in and gave our military, who were overseas in very dangerous lands and dangerous situations, their guns back so they could defend themselves, where Obama took them away from our soldiers. So he understands the military needs those certain things to protect our own people. And so he's a great, president, military commander-in-chief. He's a great commander-in-chief. And that's what our country needs. I believe every country needs, because it's about taking care of their people. And that's what he is. He is a man.
And it's about staying out of other people's countries, Mary, with the greatest of respect.
Well, that's fine. But America has always been asked to come into other countries and be that helper or that protector, or, America. Okay. And the other thing too is, as a little girl, when I remember growing up, I always I never understood why it was that this statement came to my head. I don't know who said it, but, our country makes money during wartime.
Yeah.
The country makes money during wartime. I could never understand that. I thought to myself, well, what are we making ammunition? Are we sending, things that we're making, blah, 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 over? Or, what do you mean we're making money? Well, come to find out, our country has been in war for a very long time.
Yeah.
Conflict all over. And a lot of these presidents have put we never had to do that. They're making money off of the wars. The elite are making money off the wars. And that has come to sevenfold right now, because that's what they've been doing. They've been making the elite classes, have been the leaders, the presidents, and their entourages have been making, and their companies, that goes with their companies and who their contractors, whenever they pick Afghanistan, look at Afghanistan, the corruption over in Afghanistan, these contractors making all kinds of money. They had top secret documents, on people that were private citizens, information that they should never have had. And they were making billions of dollars. And that's trickling right along. Biden is a pure example of China and all the money that his son Hunter and all that has been making. They've been making money. They want wars. This president doesn't want wars. He wants to bring our people home. He wants to make everybody, he's a master negotiator. He's a master negotiator. He's a master diplomat.
That's what I admire, because I'm a pacifist, and I don't, and I've seen firsthand my friend who lived in Libya for a long, long time, and had to leave her home and come back here, and you say she shouldn't have to. She should have been able to live in the country that she actually loved living in.
That's right.
Home.
That's right. That's right. All the immigrants. Look at all the refugee. So all these wars have caused all these poor people refugees to have to leave their countries, especially in the Middle East. I mean, why can't they go back to their countries? Because these leaders are corrupt and they're hurting these people. They're causing human destruction. They're killing their own. They're in Africa. It's happening. It's in the Middle East. I mean, Iran. Those people were free. No freedom. Now they're under an Ayatollah that's trying, he's going to kill everybody. He's going to blow up the world, that guy. He's going to blow Israel off the face of the earth. I mean, this is why Donald Trump is trying to keep peace. He is a peaceful president. He is doing the right thing. He's not only doing it overseas in other countries, but he is calling them out. He's calling these corrupt people out because they have been committing crimes against their own flesh and blood, their own people for a very long time, and it's got to stop. And that is why God is causing he's exposing the corruption, he's exposing the people, he's exposing the church, he's exposing everything, because it needs to happen. Otherwise, we're going to blow each other up. We're going to nuke everybody, and we're all going to be done. And that's not going to happen. God's not going to allow that. It's just not going to happen.
What's next now, Mary, for Michael, for General Flynn?
Well, this has been an overwhelming feeling for all of us. You know, it's like, whoa, the fight's been so hard and long, and now he's free at the night before Thanksgiving, which was wonderful. Michael is not done.
It was a remarkable time for him. It was just fortuitous that it was the night before Thanksgiving.
And that's, you know, Donald Trump is a he's a really decent, I mean, I don't care about his tweets and all that kind of stuff, because nobody's perfect. As far as I'm concerned, I've got five brothers.
I'm on Twitter, but
I was born between generals. I have 5 brothers and I have 4 sisters, and none of us are perfect. And
I think I've had one tweet ever in 4 years on Twitter, maybe 1 or 2. So I'm not really very good at Twitter, but I just think that, you know, I see him as an MLA, is it MMA? The you know, what do you call those? The not weightlifters, but the wrestlers.
Oh, the wrestlers. Oh, yeah.
Donald Trump is a political wrestler. That's what I see, and
he loves it.
And much the same as you had Muhammad Ali, who used to talk about I'm beautiful and I'm the best, and I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
I mean, he was loved. I mean, that's just the way he is.
And it was all boxing talk and bravado. That's what I saw from the very beginning. But maybe I'm a critical thinker, you see.
Yeah.
And I don't take things on face value. I know I think very deeply. And I see all the ramifications for what people say and what they do. And I like to think that I'm the type of person that judges somebody on their actions rather than their words.
Well, that's a good thing. You know, that's a good thing.
You know, and probably, and I can see why he annoys people. But
he does.
At the same time, I can't understand why people can't see the good he's done as well.
Yeah, and you're right, Mary, they should, because that's the way you should. Oh, when you meet a person, and this goes back to the 10 Commandments, you love your neighbor. When you meet somebody, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. It can't be on appearance, and it can't be on their first, sentence to you.
Yeah, he's an example of don't judge the book by its cover.
Right, you got to give people a chance, and you've got to keep a sense of humor with things too. Where's your sense of humor? God gave us a sense of humor. He's the master of sense of humors. Believe me, I know my life it's been full of sense of humor from God. And so when Donald Trump, does his thing, he's reaching out to the people. And yes, he is ticking off his enemies, but you have to love your enemies too and pray for your enemies. So, keep your enemies close. There's so many sayings that mean a lot when you think about the realm of human being interaction, relationships. It's very important that we try to love each other. And Donald Trump is he's the same age as my second husband, who's God sent to me. I married
I can't even get one, Mary. I can't even get one, and you're on your second.
Well, isn't that funny? A friend I was just talking to a friend of mine who said the same thing. She's 40. She says, she's younger than me. I'm 59. She says, I don't think I'll ever find a husband. I don't know if I'm ever going to find. You think I'm kind of bored right now, and I don't. And it's so funny. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. You're getting in your 40s is better. Your 50s is even better. And my sister says every decade is even better for a woman. So I don't know.
What do you say to people who would talk about the border situation in the States? And from I know he didn't build he didn't build. See, perhaps maybe at the beginning when he was talking about building this wall and everything, he should have talked more about, just protecting the people within the country, and instead of making it sound like, I suppose his language made it sound as if he was taking a racist attitude to it.
Sure.
When in actual fact, really, probably what he was talking about was protection from, and I know he did say on many occasions illegal immigration, and and I know he did say to protect in case criminals were to come into the country. We all have borders. I mean, we have borders in this country, and we have rules in this country. You can't just walk in and live in Ireland. You can't just live in the UK.
That's right.
And there certainly will be now post-Brexit. There'll be more restriction. I don't think there's a country in the world that you could just walk into and decide to live in.
No. No, because there's too many radical. There's too many radical terrorists. There's too many groups that could hurt the people. You have to protect the people. That's the way it is. I mean, that's the way it is. A country, a president, a leader has to protect their people. So they have taken Donald Trump's whole language, his whole demeanor, his whole character, and they've twisted it. We have a problem in this country with illegal immigrants. Okay. We also have a problem at our Mexican and Canadian border with illegal cartel, with a very, very evil criminal element, cartels.
Mexico, coyotes.
Mexico, MS-13, for example. So, Mexico has not taken care of their people. They have not taken care of their people. Canada has not taken care of their people. Though, when that element is there, okay? I mean, whether they have or not, I'm just saying that the criminal element on borders, they want to come into this country. They're bringing guns, they're bringing drugs that are killing our people. He's trying to build the walls where these people are living. These walls he's talking about, there's people that own those farms, that live there with their family and children. They're being terrorized by cartel, by sex trafficking.
What do you do, Mary, with people who are trying to come across fleeing for sanctuary? Do you know?
Well, there's rules to that.
I know they're supposed to go, and there are steps you take and that. But when you're absolutely frantic for your life, and you don't always think rationally when you're trying to escape some situation, whether it's a domestic relationship or whatever. People don't always have the benefit of thinking rationally, and they do things that if they sat back and thought about it afterwards, they'd have said, oh, I should have done it a different way. But they don't have the time, and they're afraid that if they go the legal route, that they're not going to be accepted because they may not be educated, they may not be able to really contribute, but they have to get out of the hell that they're living in.
Right.
There is
So what I think about that is it's very sad. I mean, it's that's what you're talking about. Everybody, humans being treated equal. Nobody wants people suffering, and there's plenty of suffering in this country from American people. There's lots of suffering. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of domestic violence. There's a lot of children. One of the things that I do is I'm heavily involved with a lot of organizations on sex trafficking and human child trafficking and all that, which is #1 in the world right now. Commodity wise, it's not drugs anymore, or gold or diamonds or anything. It's human beings. Okay, that's where the evil has increased. This is what we've done. We, as human beings, we are killing, hurting, abusing, destroying our own children. Okay, so when we talk about those people, first of all, these countries need to step up. They need to step up to the plate for their own people. That nobody should be treated like that. Nobody, no majority of is women and children. Women and children are the ones that are the victims. If you want to go to that level, that's where it is. It's women and children running. running from abuse, running from cartels who own their neighborhoods and all that. Okay, so that's sad. Yes, and so first of all, our leader, our President Trump, has taught. He has. Leaders have to make those leaders accountable for that corrupt evilness. That has to come from their countries. Letting somebody into our country, there is a procedure. We do have human feelings and rights, and we do help people like that. That the media does not talk about that, but yes, we have. I have friends that I know that came from those situations in other countries that want to be here legally, though. That's the problem. Is it's got to be done legally. There are channels that need to be done. And what has happened over the decades is it has not been legal. It's been a run free for muck. It's just been, so we have all these, my brother used to talk about this all the time, within the country, the infiltration of terrorism and cartel and drugs and trafficking and all this. He talked about this happening, and it's a reality. So we have to hold all these country leaders accountable. Trump is doing that, and he needs 4 more years to make it happen.
But are people ever going to understand Trump?
Well, I mean, yeah, they will. I mean, they will. I mean, and people do. Look at over 75 million voted for him, really. I mean, in reality, I mean, this has been an incredible thing.
Oh, I know.
There's a small percentage that should just leave the country. Mary, they should just leave the country if they don't like this country. If they don't like the freedom we have, leave.
Is the media ever going to understand him to the point that they'll actually,
well, the media should be held accountable too. Look what they did to my brother. Look what they did to my brother. I mean, they slandered him. I mean, yeah, they should be held accountable. And I think that's going to happen. I really do. I think that, the way Trump has called them all out, and people love that. People love that. These characters on CNN and MSNBC and, even Fox is getting the shit kicked out of them right now because of their far left hate for Donald. All of a sudden it's coming out. Like they held back last 4 years when he got in, but now all of a sudden, we've got a majority of Fox now, and the people are boycotting. The American people can destroy the media, and they will, and that's what we call digital soldiers, and that's what's happening. There's a very big movement of digital soldiers. People don't have to go listen. A lot of people are not listening to the media, and I recommend any of my friends and family that they don't listen to the media. They do not listen to the media right now.
I've been listening to every kind of media lately. I mean, on social media, and MSNBC and Fox and CNN and Sky and Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera,
is good, and Al Jazeera usually has is fairly biased, and the French 24. Is usually good. But Mary, I'm just conscious that you've got another meeting at 5 o'clock, I think. You've got
I have, yes, I quarter of, it's about 11:45 right now, our time. And I have a great friend, Mark Taylor, who is a wonderful, faithful man who's written books, and he's a great guy. And we're going to get on, my family and I, and we're going to get on a prayer call for Sydney. We're going to do a prayer call for Sydney Powell because she needs prayers. And I've got a couple of great intercessors that are coming with me.
Include me in that prayer, will you please?
Yes, Mary, we will. Thank you so much. I mean,
I've applied for a postdoctoral fellowship. And
did you?
Enormously difficult to get. So.
Wonderful.
It's very competitive, and
I bet, Mary, I bet.
So I'm just.
Well, anytime you need prayers, please, because I have a huge, prayer operation, and I'm devoted to the Blessed Mother as my mother gave me that beautiful gift of prayer and faith. Yeah. So. She's a protector in this country, and she's a great love of mine.
Our Lady.
Our Lady.
Our Lady. Well, Mary,
and we call it the Our Lady of the Isle here in Little Newport, Rhode Island. Our St. Mary's is one of the churches that I'm the finance director of, and another St. Augustine's Church, which is a very big Irish community, which we didn't even get onto, but that's a wonderful community. But
I suppose our station is aimed at the Irish diaspora. Well, it's aimed at an international audience, but particularly, I suppose, we're hoping that we'll be a voice for the Irish abroad. Do you know?
Oh, wonderful.
So if you
That's
know
wonderful,
anybody
Mary,
that wants to come on the show, feel free to put them in contact.
Sure, and I'll be on anytime you want. We should talk about the church sometime. I'd love to do that.
I was actually thinking there a few minutes ago, I must get Mary on and we'll talk about, because I've had a few priests on and they've all talked about the situation.
Our great friend, just so you know, our great friend through this whole thing with Michael is Archbishop Vigano. He is a very spiritual advisor to my family. He is a wonderful, wonderful man, and that man.
And we shouldn't forget, where is she? Alice Butler.
Alice! Oh my goodness! I stayed with Alice. I rounded her up down to the National Prayer March in Washington D.C. and I got a hold of her from my brother Joe, and I spent the weekend with her, and we walked the Rosary in front of a lot of evangelists down there. She said the Rosary with me the whole time. It was very nice. She's an amazing lady.
My God, has she got energy?
Oh, she's nonstop. I mean, nonstop.
She's like the ever ready bunny.
Oh, she is. She isn't. She loves Donald Trump. She loves my brother.
She does. She does.
Yeah, good lady.
Much to the chagrin, I think, of her family.
Yeah. And her husband is a great guy too. What a great guy he is.
Is that her husband, Alice's husband?
Yeah, he's a colonel. He was a retired colonel in the army.
He was in Vietnam, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, wonderful man.
Yeah. Well, Mary Flynn, it was an absolute joy to talk to you.
You too.
I felt like I've known you all my life.
Aw,
and I felt like it was just sitting down having a chat.
I'm having my tea.
I had mine. It's all, where is it gone? You see, it's green, so it vanishes in behind the green screen.
I see it.
See that? Yeah. Because our lighting is, we're still in progress here in the station, and we're using
good luck with everything.
Ordinary lights, which is why I look like death warmed up.
Oh no, you're beautiful. You're just beautiful. Ireland's beautiful. We love you. We love Ireland. We love you. We love the Irish. Our sister city is Kinsale. Newport, Rhode Island. Sister city is Kinsale. My husband played rugby for 25 years.
In Kinsale.
Here, but in Kinsale too. When he was 50 years old, he got VIP of the game.
Your husband is from Ireland.
No, he's from here, but he played
Irish parents with his name.
He just O'Neill. He's an O'Neill. He's a Northern Ireland boy. He's a Protestant. I'm a Catholic and Protestant. It was a great match.
My mother was Catholic and my father was Protestant. English and Irish.
Yes.
With a little bit of Jewish in the mix as well.
It's great. It's a great match. So, but he played rugby here, and Newport has an unbelievable rugby team. New England, the U.S. loves rugby. It's really grown in this country. It's really become a love in this country. And he played young. He's 73. My husband is 73. He played for 25 years, and back when they weren't playing rugby, he played rugby. And what my point is, Kinsale has become our sister city, and they go and play over there. And he played when he was 50 years old, his last game.
And where are your parents from?
My mother and father were both from Newport. Their parents were their parents came here with my great grandmother and grandfather. They were from Ireland. Sligo. My grandmother was from
Sligo.
Yeah, Sligo. Sligo. So,
Wow.
yeah, so we were here.
Sligic,
Yeah.
they say in Gaelic.
Oh, okay.
Sligic. It's Sligo and anglicized to Sligo.
Oh, wow.
Sligic is the Gaelic for it. So you were
Ah,
halfway there when you said Sliggy.
okay. Love it. I love it. I love it.
So Mary, thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
My love to Joe
I
and
certainly will.
to General Flynn, and tell him that, you know, we're delighted he was pardoned
Yeah.
without guilt.
That's right. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
My love to Alice.
Oh, yes, definitely. She's great. I'll be talking to her.
Okay. So we'll be on to you again to come on and talk about.
Please, I love it. I love talking to you. You're great.
Thanks,
All
Mary.
right. Love you. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless.